A veces es pesado, a veces te sientes cansada porque no descansas ningún día, pero es así.
Patricia Paredes Jamarillo works 7 days a week cleaning bars and offices in central London. Her employer pays her the UK's minimum wage of £6.70 an hour, which doesn't go far in one of the world's most expensive cities. She and her partner Julian, also a cleaner, live in a single room in South London, which they rent from a family of Bolivians.
Es muy estrecho porque, por ejemplo, cuando mi esposo se pone a estudiar, yo no puedo hacer prácticamente nada más porque no puedo molestarle. O si yo me pongo a hablar por teléfono con mi familia, él tampoco podría estudiar. O sea, es un espacio que tenemos los dos para hacer todo lo del día a día.
Patricia is about to be swept up into a bold policy experiment. The British government will launch a national living wage, a sharply higher minimum wage for people aged 25 and over, which it hopes will shake up the economy, make people higher paid and more productive. If all goes to plan, by 2020 people like Patricia will be paid about £9 an hour, and Britain will have one of the highest minimum wages in the developed world.
Patricia's partner Julian knows what that will be like. His wage was recently increased to the voluntary London living wage of £9.40 an hour, after a successful campaign by the Independent Workers' Union of Great Britain.
Es fantástico porque al aumentar de sueldo cambia bastante la vida, nos alcanza un poco más para pagar lo que es el transporte y la vida en esta ciudad tan cara, lo que es el alquiler, lo que es la comida, los servicios mínimos.
Supporters of the government's plan say a higher minimum wage will be good for the economy as well as for individual workers, because they will be happier, more productive, and able to spend more in the shops. Experts say it is also a step into the unknown. While official forecasts show the living wage will cost about 60,000 jobs, some economists worry the effect could be much worse on employment. Whether or not that happens depends on employers like Sam Pallett, who runs 3 hotels in the Best Western chain, finding other ways to cope with the sharp increases in their wage bills. Sectors like hospitality will be particularly affected by the policy because they employ a lot of people on the minimum wage.
Majority of our staff here are over 25, so maybe 2 or 3 only fall below them. So you can actually just say practically 90% of the staffing here would be affected with that. It's not a fact. We can actually absorb, we will actually make it, but the positive side of it is possibly when we talk to the staff and all, we can request a little bit of increased productivity, so that will actually help. I still remember the hotel industry 15 years ago. I couldn't get staff to work in the hotel industry because the Tesco and Asda, they were paying more than £6 an hour to fill the shelf. And I still remember we were paying £4.50 possibly. So that was unfair.
While Mr. Pallett believes he can absorb the minimum wage increases partly by boosting productivity, others are not so confident, as was reflected at a recent Best Western Members' Conference in Manchester, attended by hoteliers like Mr. Pallett and their suppliers. Ahmed Akoudi is a supplier to the hotel industry. He runs Robina, a manufacturer of bespoke furnishings.
We've got a cross-section of skills across the workforce, and the impact of sort of the living wage will come through being forced to move everybody's pay grade up.
And for Mr. Akoudi, less profit means less money to invest in growing the business.
The amount of profit that we have in the business is pretty much just enough to reinvest for new development, for new products, for new procedures, which mean that we're not going to be as competitive in terms of our productivity, service, etc.
The other possibility is that companies will pass the cost of the minimum wage policy on to customers by raising their prices. But, as hotelier Deborah Stewart-Jansen knows, for small businesses in very competitive sectors like retail and hospitality, that might prove tricky.
At the moment, I think we'll have to absorb it. We're in a very competitive market, so we can't budge the prices up by £5 a room because they're just going to stay at the room down the road, because we've got the Premier Inn and Travel Lodge right in the vicinity of where we are. Then the drinks as well, you know, you start lobbing those up because to pay for your delivery man coming, because he's now getting 50p extra. It is going to have this really bad knock-on effect, I think, and it's going to make this industry expensive, particularly for tourism. Because you can go to France and you can get wine for £2.50 a decent bottle and a decent meal all in for €10, but you can't now in this country unless you go to McDonald's.
Will Britain's bet on the living wage pay off, or will it all end in tears? The experiment begins on April the 1st, when people like Patricia will receive the first in a series of pay rises. After months of debate, the hopes and fears of workers and employers will finally be put to the test. Sarah O'Connor, Financial Times, London.